I knew I was in trouble the second Megan stepped in front of my car like she was guarding the White House. She had one manicured hand on her hip and the other holding a clipboard, like some kind of rent-a-cop from a reality show. I rolled my window down halfway. She didn't even let me speak. "You're not on the list, Mason." I looked past her at the white stone gates of Arcadia Golf Club. My club. The same one I poured millions into restoring. The one I technically owned, though no one in my family knew that part. Yet. "I'm here for the anniversary party," I said, keeping it cool. She crossed her arms. "Yeah, and I'm here to make sure we don't have gate crashers. It's a private event, family only." I stared at her fake designer shoes, a knockoff version of the ones I'd custom made for a boutique in Austin. She didn't even wear them right. "You're serious?" I asked. "Mason," she sighed, dragging my name out like it tasted bad. "This isn't a bar crawl. Everyone here is, respectable. Lawyers, CEOs, investors. You fix bikes in a garage." The irony slapped me in the face. Her blazer was the exact cut and fabric of the prototype I'd commissioned last year for a luxury tailoring line I helped launch. I said nothing. Just let her talk. "I mean, look at your car," she went on, motioning toward my '68 Dodge Charger. "This isn't a monster truck rally." My hand gripped the envelope behind my seat. Thick paper, wax seal. Inside was the deed to a lakeside cabin, right on Arcadia's private grounds. I'd bought it last year and remodeled it as a surprise gift for my parents' anniversary. The lake view was unreal. That didn't matter now. My mother's voice cut in from behind Megan. "Mason, why are you here?" I got out of the car. My boots hit the pavement harder than I meant. She looked me over like I'd tracked mud onto her living room carpet. "This event is for professionals," she said. "We didn't want to confuse the guests." That last part hung there like smoke. I looked up at the Arcadia crest on the gates. The logo I personally approved, the gold trim I paid extra for. Megan stepped in closer. "Go home, Mason. Seriously, you don't belong here." I didn't say a word. I just tucked the envelope back inside my jacket, turned around, and walked toward the service entrance. The gravel crunched under my boots as I circled toward the service path. I wasn't 2 steps in before Megan's voice chased after me again. "You really thought you'd just show up and get treated like a guest?" she called, "in that getup?" I turned around, slow. She followed, smug like she was catching a trespasser. "This isn't some oil-stained garage," she added, glancing down at my boots like they were diseased. "It's Arcadia. Do you even know what that means?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. But that didn't stop her. "You wasted your life, Mason," she said, arms folded tight now. "You could have been a partner at Dad's firm. You could have had real clients. But no, you wanted to... what? Play with motorcycles?" Her voice went sharp on that last word, like she couldn't believe anyone would say it out loud. I stayed still. Let her talk. Let her hear herself. "And don't even start with your little projects," she said, putting air quotes around it. "You work with your hands, you wear flannel, you drive some gas-guzzling dinosaur. No one's impressed." She stepped closer, like she was about to tell me a secret. "My fiancé just made senior partner last week. You know what that means?" Yeah, I knew exactly what that meant. It meant his firm was about to lock in a 10-year lease on a private hangar at the airport I owned. "His name's on a corner office in Chicago," she bragged. "We just closed on a condo with full lake views and concierge service. Real life, Mason. Not grease and fumes." My mom walked up, smoothing her dress like she was preparing for a photo shoot. "Megan's right," she said calmly, like this was some polite correction. "She and Brad have built something you can be proud of. You just haven't found your place yet." I laughed once, just a breath. "You mean I don't fit your image?" Mom gave that fake little smile she always used when things got uncomfortable. "We just didn't want to confuse the guests," she said again, like that was a perfectly reasonable excuse for shutting me out. I glanced over her shoulder, through the glass doors, my building, my design, the custom light fixtures I had flown in from Italy. The oak paneling with the raw grain I personally approved. I could point out every finish, every curve of the bar, every chair height, all decisions I signed off on. But to them, I was still just the guy who walked away from accounting school. I clenched my jaw. "You know," Mom went on, her voice soft but cutting, "when Megan and Brad get married, we might host the reception here. The staff knows her. It's a good relationship. They respect her. I thought about the numbers on the last quarterly report, about the new shop opening in Munich next month, about the patent we just secured on our electric racing bike, the one the European press called a Tesla on two wheels. But none of that mattered here, not to them. "Let me guess," I said. "You invited the country club crowd, lawyers, executives, maybe some local press, but not the guy who fixes toys for a living." Megan tilted her head like she was doing me a favor. "Come on, Mason. You had your shot. You picked a wrench over a desk. No one's mad. We just moved on." I opened my mouth, then shut it. There was no point trying to explain a global logistics chain to people who still thought being a mechanic meant I did oil changes in someone's driveway. Instead, I looked past them one more time. Inside, the chandeliers glowed like gold. Every guest sipped champagne in the room I'd built from the ground up, and they had no idea whose name paid for their drinks. My mother stepped aside, brushing invisible lint from her sleeve like I was dirtying the air. "We really should get back," she said to Megan. "Let's not make a scene." Megan smirked at me one last time. "Good seeing you, Mason." I nodded once. Then I turned and walked toward the edge of the building, where the executive entrance was waiting, and my head of operations would be arriving in under 3 minutes. I cut around the side of the building, past the kitchen doors, just as the valet team started shifting into evening setup. None of them stopped me. They knew who I was, not because I asked for recognition, but because I signed their paychecks. And as I walked, I kept hearing his voice in my head. My dad's voice, years ago. "You'll end up working under a car your whole life," he said, like that was the worst thing a man could do. That was the last real conversation we ever had before I walked out of his firm's office and never looked back. They made it clear I was done. No more invites, no more birthday dinners, no more Becker family holidays. Fine. I stopped trying to prove anything to them, but I didn't stop building. What started as a one-bay garage in an abandoned warehouse in Joliet turned into a national name in less than 5 years. We didn't just fix bikes. We re-engineered them. Turbo kits, hand-shaped tanks, carbon fiber frames, full electric conversions. I put in 18-hour days, missed rent, sold my own truck to buy a CNC machine. And it worked. I brought in a partner, then another. We expanded to 3 cities, then 7. I hired engineers from BMW's old racing team. I brought in ex-military logistics guys to streamline our operations. A few years after that, we had our own distribution pipeline, a design team out of California, and a client list that included half the pro circuit and 3 Saudi princes. And 2 years ago, after we crossed that billion-dollar valuation, I started looking for somewhere quiet to put my money. Somewhere close to home, but untouchable. That's when Arcadia came up. They were in trouble, bleeding cash. Private club, massive overhead, stuck in the 80s. I started investing through a holding group. First, a minor share, then a bigger one. 5 years ago, I funded the redesign. Anonymously, of course. The same redesign they were all sipping champagne inside tonight. Last year, I bought the whole damn place outright. I didn't even put my name on it. I didn't need to. I let the holding company keep the records clean, kept everything behind the curtain. The Beckers were added to the member directory 2 weeks later, quietly, under the premium tier. No application, no dues. I made it look like an exclusive invite, a little courtesy. And still, they looked through me like I was a valet with attitude. The wind kicked up around the east wing as I stopped at the side door. I could hear laughter from inside, clinking glasses, jazz from the string quartet echoing through the hall I'd designed, down to the goddamn crown molding. I didn't expect a trophy or a pat on the back. But I also didn't expect them to treat me like some blue-collar stain they couldn't scrub off. They wanted respect? Respect for what? For marrying well? For matching the drapes to the sofa? For keeping the lie going long enough that no one asked questions? I had factories in 4 countries, a waiting list 6 months deep, and a team that could rebuild an engine blindfolded and have it purring like silk in under an hour. And I'd stayed silent. I let them write me off. I let them smile for the press out front of this building, my building, while pretending they belonged here. But now, I was done being quiet. I felt my phone buzz in my jacket. One message, "Arriving now. You ready?" I slipped the phone back in my pocket. Yeah, I was ready. I grabbed the handle, pulled open the door, and stepped inside. The east hallway opened straight into the reception corridor. White marble floors, gold trim on the sconces, and those custom archways I'd fought with the architects about for 6 months. I barely took 2 steps in before I heard heels clacking fast behind me. "Mason!" Megan snapped. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" She'd followed me back around, dragging Brad and my mom with her like some manic little parade of judgment. "I thought we made ourselves clear," she said. "You're not— Is there a problem, Mr. Becker?" The voice came from my left, smooth but loud enough to hit every ear in that hallway. Heads turned, even the coat check girl straightened up like she'd just realized she was standing in front of someone important. My head of operations, Greg, stood there in full Arcadia staff uniform, blazer, pin, polished shoes, clipboard in one hand, radio in the other. He looked straight at me, then glanced at Megan, my mother, and Brad like they were just more entitled guests demanding special treatment. "Security said there was some confusion at the gate," Greg said. "Should I escort your guests in now?" My mother froze mid-step. Megan's mouth hung open. Brad blinked twice like he was trying to reprocess reality in real time. "Mr. Becker owns Arcadia Club," Greg said clearly. "No room for misinterpretation. All access is approved under his authority." Silence hit the hallway like a thunderclap. Megan's whole body tensed. She turned toward me with this glassy look in her eyes, like she was trying to recognize someone she'd never actually seen. "You— What? You own— No, that can't—" Brad took half a step back, eyes wide. "Wait, he's Becker?" Greg didn't flinch. "Yes, sir. This facility is fully owned by BPG Holdings. Mr. Becker is the managing director." I could see the math running in real time on Brad's face. BPG, Becker Performance Group. The logo his firm had pitched to last quarter, the client they couldn't land. My mom let out a breath and reached for my arm. "Mason, we didn't know. You never said anything." I looked at her hand on my sleeve. She dropped it like it burned. Megan finally spoke. "You let us—" She stopped, shook her head. "Why wouldn't you just say something?" I turned to Greg. "Everything in place?" He nodded. "The team's ready. Executive lounge is prepped. AV crew is standing by for your cue." "Let's walk in." I stepped forward. The doors opened automatically ahead of me. My team was waiting just inside, my assistant, my project director, even the head chef nodding from behind the bar. I didn't look back. The hallway opened into the grand ballroom. Chatter, music, clinking silverware. It all paused the second I walked in. My boots clicked across that hardwood floor. Every light hit just where I'd planned it to, because I paid for them. A few people turned toward me, some with half smiles, confused, others recognizing me instantly. My name was on the liquor shelf behind the bar, a special reserve scotch branded with the BPG crest. My initials were stamped into the leather chairs. My signature was in the foundation paperwork framed on the south wall, but my family? They never saw any of it. Until now. The second I crossed into the ballroom, the room shifted. Not loud, not dramatic, just still. The string quartet trailed off mid-note. Glasses stopped clinking. Conversations cut off like someone hit pause. People turned. Some squinted, trying to place me. Others already knew. I saw it in their eyes. Half the room recognized me from investor meetings, product launches, or that Forbes feature last quarter. A few even nodded like they'd just figured out the twist ending of a movie they didn't know they were in. A guy near the bar leaned toward his wife. "That's him. That's Becker, from BPG." A woman in a navy suit whispered to her colleague, eyes locked on me. "Didn't they just buy that plant in South Korea?" I kept walking, calm, purposeful. Every step forward was one more nail in the story my family had been selling for years, that I was just a dropout with a socket wrench. I spotted my father near the front of the room, standing at the edge of the stage, his mouth open slightly like he'd lost the words he meant to say. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stared like he was seeing someone crawl out of his past. Then a man in a dark blazer stepped in front of me, hand extended. "You're Becker Performance Group, right?" Another joined him, then a third. "I've been trying to get a meeting with you for 6 months, one said. "We're in aerospace. That electric drivetrain you're developing, we're watching that closely." "I thought you were based in Austin," another added. I am, I said, shaking hands. But I built this place to stay connected to home. Brad appeared at the edge of the group, hanging back like a kid at a grown-up table. His expression said everything. He finally knew who I was and who he wasn't. The same firm that gave him that shiny promotion, they'd been circling BPG like vultures, desperate for a seat at the table. A woman in pearls leaned in. "Are you related to the Beckers hosting this party?" "Unfortunately," I said, just loud enough. That's when my father stepped forward. His voice didn't carry much, but the people closest heard him. "Mason," he said, like he was trying to shift gears mid-sentence. "Why didn't you tell us?" I turned toward him slowly. "You told me not to embarrass the family," I said. "So I didn't." That landed like a punch. He looked down, then back at the crowd. The people suddenly realizing this entire event was built on a lie. Because this wasn't their club. It wasn't their network. It wasn't even their damn anniversary venue. It was mine. My mother finally caught up, stepping into the room with Megan trailing behind. People were watching now. Not just glancing, watching. I could see guests reevaluating everything. They weren't looking at Megan's designer dress or Brad's firm badge anymore. They were looking at me, and Megan knew it. She tried to plaster on that fake pageant smile, but her eyes darted around the room, desperate for control. Brad reached for her hand and missed. Someone from the board approached me next, an older guy with silver hair and a handshake like he still lifted weights. "You designed the renovations?" he asked. "Every square inch," I said. He gave a low whistle. "Damn fine work. Whole place finally runs right. Should have known you had a hand in it." I nodded once. No need to explain further. Behind me, I could hear my mother whispering Megan's name through her teeth, trying to keep her calm. Too late. I walked past them both toward the head table. My table now. I stopped at the head table. My father was still standing, awkwardly frozen between shock and denial. Like, if he just blinked enough times, the room would reset itself. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the envelope. Thick, cream-colored, sealed in wax with the Arcadia crest. His eyes dropped to it, confused. I held it out. "Happy anniversary," I said. "Hope you like the view. You've been looking at it for years without realizing you were sitting on my land." He took the envelope slowly, like it might explode in his hands. "What is this?" "Deed to the cabin out by the lake," I said. "Full remodel, new foundation, reclaimed wood siding, custom glass walls. You'll see it better tomorrow morning." Sunrise hits it like a painting. Megan let out a short, fake laugh from behind him. "Oh, come on, a cabin." She looked around the room. "Let's not make this a whole production." Someone at the next table leaned in. A woman in her 30s, well-dressed but real. "Wait, that cabin? We tried to book a wedding here last spring. Got waitlisted." Her husband nodded. "We were told someone already had long-term rights to the property." The woman looked at Megan. "You said you could pull strings. Said your family had connections?" Megan's face twitched. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I smiled. "She never had to ask," I said. "She could have just called her brother." The room went still again. Not silent, just tense, like people were deciding what side of this story they believed. My mother pulled out a chair and sat, pale as the tablecloth. She avoided every pair of eyes that turned her way. I turned back to my dad. He was holding the deed like it weighed 50 pounds. "You bought land inside Arcadia?" he asked, voice low. "I bought Arcadia," I said. The cabin came later. A few more guests started whispering. I could feel the mood shift, not just curiosity now, but realization. All the quiet praise they used to save for Megan and Brad. It was gone. I motioned to one of the servers. "Can we get a bottle of the house reserve here, please?" The guy nodded instantly and jogged off. Megan folded her arms, still trying to act unfazed. "You really think this little stunt makes up for—" "Stunt?" I cut her off. "You mean showing up to give our parents a gift at a party hosted on my property, after getting told at the gate I wasn't good enough to come inside?" Brad tried to chime in, but the look I gave him shut him right back down. I watched Megan chew the inside of her cheek like she was dying to twist it into some kind of win. But there was nothing left to spin. The couple from earlier spoke up again. "You know," the woman said, "we thought it was weird how hard Megan pushed about the wedding. All this talk about knowing someone, pulling favors." She shook her head. Turns out she didn't need strings, just manners. Megan turned beet red. My father still hadn't moved. He just kept staring at the envelope, like it held a different version of the life he thought he had. I leaned down a little, just enough for him to hear. It's all in your name, no tricks, no tax games, just a gift. He didn't respond. I straightened up, let my eyes sweep across the room. The murmurs were growing, tables were turning. My mother pressed her fingers to her temple, like she was getting a migraine. I took a seat at the head table, my table. I didn't have to say a word after that. The party just shifted. It wasn't dramatic, no gasps or fainting. Just small movements, eyes cutting in new directions, feet slowly turning, conversations rerouting away from Megan and toward me. Brad sat stiff beside her, jaw tight, scrolling through his phone like he was double-checking something. A LinkedIn profile, maybe, or his firm's internal CRM. Maybe both. Megan leaned in and whispered something to him. He didn't answer, just locked the screen and slipped the phone back into his jacket. The Blackwells came over first. Older couple, sharp dressers, always sat near the front at club meetings. I had no idea, Mr. Blackwell said, shaking my hand firmly. Impressive work you've done here. We've never seen the place run this well. Then the Stantons followed. Local real estate family. Their son and I went to high school together, used to skate in my driveway. Thought your name sounded familiar, Mrs. Stanton said, smiling wide. Didn't realize you were that Becker? I try to keep a low profile, I said. You did too good a job, she laughed. Old friends started showing up one by one. Some I hadn't seen in years. Turns out, half of them didn't even know I was the same kid who used to bring engines to school in milk crates. My mother stood off to the side, holding a glass she hadn't touched. Her smile looked like it had been stapled to her face. I always said he was talented, she told the Stantons. Very entrepreneurial, even as a boy. I caught the lie and let it slide. No reason to light another fire. Not yet. I nodded, polite, played along. That's true, I said. You always said I had potential. She looked at me for a half second, something flickering behind her eyes. Maybe shame, maybe regret, maybe just exhaustion from the performance. Megan tried to recover, stepping toward a couple near the bar. He's very private, she said. Even we didn't know. He wanted to surprise us. It might have worked if she hadn't spent the first half of the night treating me like a stray dog scratching at the gate. I saw the woman she spoke to nod awkwardly, then walk straight toward me. Just wanted to say congrats, she said. And thank you. This place looks incredible. I shook her hand and smiled. Megan's eyes burned into my back. Brad checked his phone again, swiped fast. He was sweating now. Every minute that passed, more guests drifted over. Some asked about the business. Some asked about the renovation. Others just wanted to know how they'd missed it all. I kept my answers short, honest. No bragging, just facts. Eventually, my mother made another attempt. She approached a couple near me, gently resting her hand on the woman's shoulder. Of course we're proud, she said quickly. You know, we always believed Mason would do something special. He's just always been, she paused, searching, independent. I almost laughed. I let her have it, though. Let her rewrite the backstory while everyone was watching. I just kept smiling. Megan stayed frozen at the edge of the dance floor, arms tight across her chest, clearly out of moves. I didn't look at her, didn't need to. I turned to Greg, who was waiting by the wine table. Send up the check, I said. The party was winding down by the time I stepped out onto the terrace. The music had softened, chairs were half empty, and the staff was moving quieter now, clearing plates, dimming lights. I needed air, space, a second without someone shaking my hand or whispering about how they always knew I'd go far. I spotted my dad near the far end of the terrace, standing by the stone railing, looking out over the golf course. His jacket was unbuttoned, and for once, he wasn't holding a drink. Just standing there, arms resting on the ledge, staring out into the dark. I walked up beside him. He didn't flinch, didn't turn, just spoke. You really built all this? The lights from the clubhouse spilled across the lawn behind us. The course stretched out into the distance, every hole I'd paid to regrade, every tree I'd had planted just right. Every inch, I said. He nodded slowly. With no help from us. I looked at him. Without a dime from you? Silence hung there. Not tense, not awkward, just heavy. I was wrong, he said finally. I thought you were throwing your life away." I didn't say anything, he went on. "You walked out of the office that day and never looked back. I thought you were just being reckless, immature." He let out a slow breath. "Turns out you were the only one who knew what you were doing." "It's not about the money," I said. "It never was." He looked at me now, full on. "Then what was it about?" I met his eyes. "You were ashamed of me, all of you, without even knowing who I was. You didn't ask questions. You didn't want to understand. You just decided I didn't belong." His jaw clenched. He looked down at his hands. "I thought I was protecting you," he said. "The family name, the firm. I didn't want to watch you fall on your face." I nodded once. "And if I had, you'd have left me there." He didn't argue, didn't try to twist it. "Do you ever think about calling me?" I asked. "Once, after I left." He hesitated. "Your mother said if you wanted to come back, you would have reached out." I laughed once, sharp, bitter. "Of course she did." He leaned heavier on the stone railing. "You got every reason to hate us." I didn't answer that. "Can you forgive us?" he asked finally, quiet, real. I stared out into the night. The sprinklers kicked on down at hole 7. The wind shifted just enough to carry the sound of it up to us. "Respect is earned," I said, "and you're 10 years late." He didn't speak after that, just nodded once, slow, like he knew that was all he was getting. I turned to leave. I got the first text before I even made it down to the lobby. "Brad left early this morning. Took the first flight out. He didn't even say goodbye." That one came from Megan. No greeting, no punctuation, just panic shoved into a sentence. Apparently, he didn't want his name tied to a nobody who turned out to be a billionaire with the power to tank his firm's real estate deal. Guess being respectable had its limits. By the time I finished my first coffee, my assistant forwarded an email from Megan's office. Same firm that ignored 3 follow-ups last year. Suddenly they were excited to revisit the Arcadia hangar lease and deeply regret the previous misunderstanding. Sure. Then came the text from my mother. 3 long paragraphs, no apology in the first 2, just excuses. "We didn't know. You should have told us. We were trying to protect you. Megan was under pressure with the wedding. At the very bottom. We're sorry, Mason. We're proud of you." I didn't respond. She didn't send it to say sorry. She sent it because now she had to. I walked into my office upstairs, top floor of the club, the windows wide open to the golf course. The lake shimmered behind the 18th hole. Greg had already dropped off the final ledger from the event. Catering, staff overtime, valet coverage, AV setup, floral installations, all marked and itemized. I went through the whole thing, line by line. Not because I didn't trust the numbers, just because I wanted to see every single thing they'd taken for granted. When I got to the bottom, I added one note in the comp section. Simple. Paid for by the black sheep. Stamped it, filed it, sent the closeout to accounting. Then I leaned back in my chair, kicked my boots up on the desk, and watched the first tee off of the day roll past my window. The sun pushed over the trees, light stretching across the 18th hole like a slow exhale. I sat in my office, corner view, top floor, sipping black coffee and watching the first foursome lineup. Their laughter floated up faint through the glass. Club mornings were different, quiet, clean. Like the place knew how to reset itself while everyone else was still sleeping off the night before. There was a knock. My assistant stepped in, holding a leather-bound guest book, silver trim on the spine. "Thought you'd want to see this," she said. I waved her in. She set it on the desk, flipped to the last written page, then left without a word. I looked down at the thick, slanted handwriting. "Proud of you. Wish I'd seen it sooner. Dad." It wasn't flowery, wasn't dramatic, just that one line, but it landed. It meant something. Not everything, but something. I ran my hand over the page, felt the indent of the pen still pressed into the paper. And all I could think about was the years I'd let them treat me like I was less. Like I wasn't worth listening to unless I followed the plan they'd already decided for me. Suits, spreadsheets, family luncheons, handshakes that meant nothing. Meanwhile, I was under a hood at midnight, welding parts that didn't exist yet, sketching torque ratios on napkins, testing fuel mixes until my fingers cracked. This place, this view, this life. I made it. Every brick, every contract, every risk no one saw coming. I didn't need their validation. But now they knew. Now the table they thought they owned wasn't theirs anymore. I didn't ask for a seat. I built the damn thing myself. From scratch. Bolt by bolt.